Once upon a time in Hollywood's golden age, there was a man who could leap tall buildings in a single bound. A man who wore the famous S on his chest and inspired millions of children to believe that good always triumphs over evil. But behind the bright lights, behind the applause and smiles, there was another story, one that ended with a gunshot in the night, a shattered illusion, and questions that still haunt the film industry to this very day. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we uncover the untold truths behind Hollywood's brightest stars. If you love true stories that reveal the human side of fame, the dreams, the heartbreak, and the mysteries that time tried to erase, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the strength to keep bringing these incredible stories to light. George Reeves. To most people, that name means Superman, the heroic figure who became a household icon in the 1950s. But to others, it represents one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in Hollywood history. At just 45 years old, Reeves was found dead in his bedroom, a single gunshot wound to the head. The official report called it suicide. But the evidence, and the people who knew him best, tell a different story. Decades later, shocking new confessions and eyewitness accounts surfaced, changing everything we thought we knew about that fateful night. So today, we'll uncover not just how George Reeves died, but why his death still divides Hollywood more than 60 years later. One day, when George was still a boy, he came home to discover his father was gone. His mother told him something that would scar him for life. She said that his beloved stepfather, Frank, had taken his own life. The news devastated him. Imagine being a child and told that the man you loved most in the world had died by suicide. But the truth was far more cruel. Frank hadn't died at all. He and Helen had simply divorced, and she had fabricated the story. Years later, as a teenager, George stumbled upon an old photograph while helping his mother clean the attic. When he asked who the man was, Helen hesitated, and then admitted the unthinkable: the man in the photo was his biological father. In a single moment, everything George believed about his childhood crumbled. His identity, his family, his sense of belonging, all shattered. Psychologists often say that early betrayals can shape a person's entire life. Perhaps that explains why George Reeves spent his adult years chasing approval, hiding pain behind charm, and searching for a sense of truth in a town built on illusions. In many ways, George's story mirrors the hidden pressure of Hollywood even today, how actors are molded, renamed, and remade to fit a fantasy. For George, that fantasy came at a cost. He'd already lost his real father and then his name. What he didn't know was that soon, he'd lose himself too. In the early 1940s, Reeves was working steadily in films. He had good looks, natural charisma, and an honest, all-American charm that made audiences root for him instantly. But even as his career blossomed, his personal life was falling apart. His marriage to Eleonora began to crumble under financial strain. Acting in those days rarely paid well, and Reeves struggled to make ends meet. To make things worse, one of his small investments collapsed, costing him the little savings they had. Eleonora, tired of living frugally while surrounded by the glamour of the rich and famous, left him for a wealthier man. George never recovered from that betrayal. He refused to speak her name again, as though erasing her would erase the pain. It was during this lonely chapter that he crossed paths with a woman who would change his life forever, and, perhaps, his fate. By the early 1950s, Reeves's film career had begun to stall. The charm that once opened doors now seemed to trap him in forgettable roles. When a new opportunity arrived, he almost turned it down, a television series called The Adventures of Superman. In Hollywood at that time, television was viewed as the poor cousin of cinema. Movie stars considered it beneath them. But Reeves, desperate for work and money, accepted the role that would immortalize him. From the moment he donned the cape, audiences were captivated. To a generation of children, George Reeves was Superman, brave, moral, unstoppable. He took the responsibility seriously. He refused to smoke in public, avoided swearing, and kept a clean image to protect the innocence of his young fans. But beneath the heroic mask, the man was suffocating. The role that made him a legend would also become his cage. The making of a Hollywood hero. Reeves's path to stardom wasn't a straight road. After his small but memorable role in Gone with the Wind, he thought doors would open everywhere. But Hollywood can be a cruel place. One day you're the new face, and the next, you're forgotten. When Warner Brothers signed him, they didn't just give him roles, they gave him a new identity. His name, his hair color, even his public personality were shaped by studio executives who believed image was everything. He wasn't George Brewer anymore. He wasn't even the man raised by the Basolos. He was George Reeves, a name created to sound like a hero, clean and marketable. But inside, he still carried the confusion of a man who didn't know where he truly belonged. His work on the Hopalong Cassidy films earned him steady employment, but not much respect. He was considered reliable, fast, efficient, but not special. Yet, behind that quiet professionalism, Reeves had a burning desire to prove he could be more than a supporting player. And that's what made him different. He wasn't trying to be famous, he was trying to be seen. It's a strange paradox in Hollywood: the more you try to show your real self, the more they ask you to play a role. The night everything went wrong. It was June 16, 1959. Just days before George's wedding to Leonore. The evening began like many others: dinner, drinks, laughter. George and Leonore were joined by a few friends at their Benedict Canyon home, a house guest, Carol Van Ronkel, and later, a neighbor, Robert Condon. For a while, the night was light-hearted. But George was uneasy. He'd been drinking, but those who knew him said he wasn't the type to drown in sorrow. Still, that evening, he seemed tired, anxious, distant. As the night went on, another man joined the party, William Bliss, a casual acquaintance. The drinks flowed, and the laughter turned sharp. Leonore, known for her fiery personality, started teasing George. He grew irritable. Eventually, frustrated, he went upstairs to bed. The others stayed downstairs, still talking, still drinking. But then something strange happened. Leonore reportedly told the others, almost jokingly, "He's going upstairs to shoot himself." Moments later, they heard a drawer slide open. Then, a single deafening gunshot. The room fell silent. For a long, uneasy minute, no one moved. No one ran upstairs. No one screamed. They simply sat there, drinking. Finally, William Bliss, the stranger among them, walked upstairs. What he found made his blood run cold. George Reeves was lying on his bed, dead. A single bullet wound to the head. A .30 caliber Luger pistol lay nearby. Police were called, but from the beginning, the investigation was tainted by confusion and carelessness. The guests downstairs were drunk and inconsistent in their statements. Leonore changed her story multiple times, first claiming she'd been upstairs when it happened, then insisting she was downstairs. Even stranger, the police accepted her word without question. Despite bullet holes in the walls, despite the lack of gunpowder residue tests, despite fingerprints not being properly collected, the case was ruled a suicide within hours. For many, the official story simply didn't add up. How could a man excited about his wedding, working on a new project, and planning to visit New York suddenly decide to end his life? And if it was suicide, why did Leonore seem so calm afterward? The newspapers painted George as a washed-up actor who couldn't handle being typecast. But those close to him knew there was something darker beneath the surface. The public didn't just lose Superman, they lost faith in Hollywood's version of truth. The unraveling truth. In the years that followed, whispers of conspiracy never stopped. Some believed Toni Mannix had arranged the killing out of jealousy. Others suspected her husband, Eddie, had ordered a hit to protect his wife's dignity, or his own. Then there was the mysterious guest, William Bliss, the man who appeared out of nowhere that night and vanished just as quickly. Some speculated he was no innocent party guest, but a hired gun sent to deliver a message. For decades, rumors circulated quietly among Hollywood insiders. And then, in 1999, 40 years after George's death, a new revelation shocked everyone. A Beverly Hills publicist came forward claiming that before she died, Toni Mannix made a confession. Terrified of facing judgment in the afterlife, she allegedly told her priest that she had arranged George Reeves's murder. The motive? Revenge. George had left her for another woman. And in her world, the world of power, pride, and hidden violence, no one left Toni Mannix. If this confession is true, it means Superman didn't fall by his own hand. He was taken down by the very darkness he tried to escape. But what makes this story so haunting isn't just the crime, it's what it represents. George Reeves embodied the dream that Hollywood sells, that fame will make you happy, that success will make you invincible. Yet, in reality, it destroyed him. He spent his life playing a man of steel, a hero who could stop bullets, fly above the clouds, and save the world. But when he needed saving, no one was there. In the end, George Reeves's story isn't just about mystery or murder. It's about identity, loneliness, and the impossible weight of perfection. He was a man who wanted to be loved for who he truly was, not for the cape he wore. But Hollywood, and perhaps fate, never gave him that chance. So, the next time you see the iconic image of Superman, standing tall with his chest out and cape flying in the wind, remember George Reeves. Remember the man who gave everything to become a hero, and in doing so, lost himself. Because sometimes, even Superman needs someone to save him. The scandal that shattered his image. By the early 1950s, George Reeves was living every actor's dream, or so it seemed. He was the face of America's most beloved hero, Superman. But behind the camera, his life had taken a dark and dangerous turn. Reeves was entangled in a complicated affair with Toni Mannix, the wife of MGM executive Eddie Mannix, a man whose connections to both Hollywood and organized crime were no secret. Toni was older than George by several years, but she was deeply devoted to him. She showered him with gifts, money, and even bought him a luxurious home in Benedict Canyon. However, their romance came with a price. Eddie Mannix was not the kind of man to cross lightly. He was known in Hollywood as the studio fixer, someone who made problems disappear, quietly and permanently. When George eventually ended his affair with Toni and became engaged to a younger woman named Leonore Lemon, many of his friends noticed a shift. Reeves appeared anxious, even paranoid. He confided in a few close companions that he felt watched. Some claimed he feared for his life. Whether it was guilt, fear, or both, the once confident Superman was beginning to crack under the pressure of his double life, one in front of the cameras and another behind closed doors. The night that shook Hollywood. June 16, 1959. It was a warm summer night in Los Angeles. George Reeves was at home with Leonore Lemon, and a few friends dropped by unexpectedly. They drank, they laughed, but tension was in the air. Around midnight, neighbors reported hearing a loud argument coming from the house, followed by a single gunshot. When police arrived, they found George Reeves dead in his bedroom, a .30 caliber Luger pistol beside him. The official report? Suicide. But few believed it. The scene was odd from the start. There were no fingerprints on the gun. The bullet holes didn't match the story told by those present. Leonore Lemon gave conflicting accounts of what happened that night, even joking with friends before police arrived that he's gone upstairs to shoot himself. Toni Mannix, upon hearing the news, reportedly collapsed in shock. Eddie Mannix remained calm, detached, and said little. Rumors swirled that Eddie had ordered a hit to punish Reeves for breaking Toni's heart. Others believed Toni herself, in a fit of jealousy, had orchestrated his death. Some even speculated Leonore pulled the trigger during an argument. The truth? It vanished that night with George Reeves. The legend that refused to die. George Reeves' death marked the end of an era, and the birth of one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. The case remains officially unsolved. Every few years, a new theory emerges, but none can explain all the strange inconsistencies. For decades, fans of the adventures of Superman have struggled to accept that their hero could have taken his own life. After all, how could Superman, symbol of strength, justice, and hope, dies so tragically and alone. Some believe Reeves was a victim of his own typecasting, trapped by the cape and tights that made him famous but stripped him of his identity. Others think he was a victim of power, of the dangerous entanglements that lurked in the shadows of Hollywood's golden age. Today, George Reeves' story serves as a haunting reminder that even the brightest stars can carry the darkest secrets. His smile on screen hid a storm within, a storm that ended not just a man's life, but forever blurred the line between heroism and heartbreak. His final curtain may have fallen that night in 1959, but the mystery of Superman's death will likely live forever.